Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Grant and this is my presentation on progressive web apps. So to start, you might be wondering, what is a progressive web app? And to answer that question, it's very similar to a regular web app, but it has a couple of extra features. Those features are that it can work offline. You can cache data and resources so that you can use them even when you don't have network. You can install it on your phone just like a normal native app, and it generally feels like a native app. You can style it and do everything to make it feel like an app you would download off of the App Store while still being much lighter weight and a lot easier to work with in a lot of circumstances. The main components of a progressive web app are the web app manifest, which is a simple JSON file that allows the PWA to be installed. And that's going to include things like the icon that's going to end up being used and displayed on the user's phone. It also includes what the app name is going to be. And then it also includes styling choices like background colors and things like that. The next thing that's required is a service worker. So a service worker is a JavaScript file that's going to run in the background, and it'll handle things like intercepting network requests, resource caching, and it can even handle push notifications. And then because that service worker is intercepting network requests, it is required that you have security for that in the form of HTTPS. And so you need to have that HTTPS certificate for your service worker to function properly. And then that's going to handle things like security. It'll prevent things like man-in-the-middle attacks and things like that. How it works is the user is going to make a request, load a page or an image, and then the service worker is going to intercept that request. It's going to check and see if the information that the user is requesting is cached or not. And then if it is, it's going to go ahead and return the cached version, which is generally much faster, and it can even work offline, which is a huge plus. If that request is not found, then it's going to go ahead and fetch it from the network and store it in the cache so that the next time you don't have to worry about it. It'll load faster and it'll load without network. So you might be wondering why progressive web apps matter. A couple of reasons that they might be better in certain situations are that you don't need to use an app store for it. I know that especially Apple has really long verification and validation processes whenever you're going to push something to the App Store, and you don't need to worry about that with the progressive web app. They're also more reliable in areas of poor network, and they're cross-platform between desktop and mobile, because instead of making your project for a mobile view for both Android and iOS and a desktop view, you're able to make a website, and then with a couple of small key changes, you're able to turn it into a progressive web app, which can be used on your desktop and on your phone fairly easily, which is going to be much easier overall than trying to make your project for a desktop, for an Android phone, and for an iPhone. And then a really great real world example of a progressive web app is actually going to be Spotify. So if you go to open.spotify.com, that is Spotify's progressive web app. It's going to be just a more lightweight version of Spotify. It is installable. You can put it on your phone with an app-like interface. It does support things like push notifications. It can load super fast even when there's a slow connection, and it can work offline with that cached content, which is super helpful. And you can see this is what it looks like on the left. I actually went ahead and installed that on my phone. So you can see the difference between normal Spotify, and it looks almost exactly the same. And then on the right here, this is also the progressive web app. So you can see it's loading things like my top mixes, everything else, and it looks almost identical to what the normal Spotify looks like. These are both from the progressive web app. And that's all I had to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I had a great time learning about what progressive web apps are, and I had a really fun time playing around with them as well and trying them out for myself. Thanks for watching.